Good morning. Because the history of Madison Square is part of what Margaret and I love about this church, on this happy occasion of the church's 140th birthday, we're going to share a brief synopsis of our church's history.
In December of 1881, Reverend William Buchanan came to San Antonio to plant the first Northern Presbyterian church in the city. He advertised in the paper that a worship service would be held on December 4th. Only one man showed up that first Sunday, but Buchanan persevered, and on February 19, 1882, 14 people met in the Oddfellows Hall at the corner of Houston and St. Mary's to form Madison Square Presbyterian Church.
The new church decided to build on three lots in what was considered to be the outskirts of town, at the very end of the streetcar line. You can see on this bird's eye view from 1886 how far from downtown the church was located. The circle on the right is Alamo Plaza, and the square on the left is the church. On this close-up, you can see what the neighborhood looked like around our familiar church spire at that time.
But disaster struck on August 20th, 1886, when the remnants of one of the worst hurricanes to ever hit the Texas coast blew through San Antonio. The stone tower and spire fell and brought the whole front of the church with it. Rather than rebuild the tower and the spire, the church voted to expand the sanctuary another 15 feet toward the street, which is how we gained a narthex. So, for about 9 years, the church looked like this.
Then, in 1895, one of the benefactors of the church, Sarah French, paid to rebuild the tower and spire and to have the 2,600-pound McShane bell installed, restoring the outside of the sanctuary to what we see today.
And here are some of the people who worshiped inside of that 1895 building at a Christian Endeavor picnic at Berg's Mill, and at a celebration of Flag Day outside the sanctuary. In 1916, the church decided that a Sunday school building was needed, and the Assembly House was built next to the sanctuary, once again financed by a bequest from the French family. I love the way the cars parked in front help us date our pictures.
In 1917, Madison Square helped to found the House of Neighborly Service, which still provides support for the west side of our city. This picture shows the groundbreaking for the new Neighborly Service building in 1927, with many of the Madison Square members in attendance. Our church continues to contribute to the House of Neighborly Service today.
In 1922, the inside of the sanctuary looked like this. This is one of my favorite pictures of the church. If you look toward the back of the sanctuary, you'll see the doors to the outside. And the words written on the back wall in the arch are "Glory to God in the highest, peace on earth," and underneath it says, "Goodwill to men." Shortly after this picture was taken, the church decided to add the balcony and 2 rooms on either side of the chancel area, and the writing was hidden. But Frank Marosco tells me you can still see some of the stenciling if you go up where the organ pipes are hidden away.
And here's the picture of the congregation of 1924, posed outside the new Assembly building after a Sunday dinner for the Belgian orphans. This was the building in 1930, and it did not physically change for a while during the Depression and as the Second World War began.
Madison Square has been led by 18 different senior pastors in our 140 years. The church had 10 different pastors in the first 50 years. A real change for the church came with the call of Reverend Samuel Terry in 1938, who would lead the church for the next 31 years. His ambition was to make Madison Square one of the most important churches in the Synod.
Under his leadership, Madison Square was instrumental in encouraging Trinity University to move from Waxahachie to San Antonio. We pledged $150,000 to be paid over 3 years to help with that move. It was the largest single pledge that was made.
This is the church in 1940. And the Advent decorations in this second picture from 1940 make our current day efforts seem kind of understated.
At the beginning of the Second World War, Madison Square stepped up to welcome soldiers. Before the USO was even started, our church included the soldiers that flooded our military city in the newly formed Westminster class for young people. This picture is from one of the fun nights that the class held on Tuesday evening at the church.
Another service the church offered during the war was a photographer who took pictures of all the visiting soldiers. After the soldier filled out this card, one picture was mailed to the soldier and another to the parents. Here is a picture also of one of the soldiers. Please notice the stained glass windows. If you can see, they're cranked open. Behind them, no AC yet.
Mo Ranch has always been a favorite place for the Madison Square family, as shown in this picture from 1952. For the church's 75th Diamond Jubilee in 1957, another major building project was started. The Assembly Hall was connected to the sanctuary and then changed to its current design that the education building has today. And most importantly, air conditioning was added. Here is the completed project.
This aerial shot from 1962 shows the area around the church before the Baptist Medical Building and parking garage next door was built. Dr. Terry retired in 1969. During his tenure, the membership more than doubled, some years exceeding 1,000 members.
Our next long-serving pastor, Reverend Bill Lytle, was called by the congregation in 1973. Under his leadership, Madison Square became even more deeply involved in mission work in our community and beyond. In 1974, an MSPC task force discovered the need for quality downtown daycare, and our mission of the Madison Square Child Development Center was born.
In 1976, our own Madison Square saint, Faith Lytle, along with her husband, Reverend Bill Lytle, started Habitat for Humanity in San Antonio. According to the Habitat for Humanity San Antonio's website, that first house on Hidalgo Street, started by Faith, was the first Habitat house built in the world. Madison Square is still an active participant in Habitat.
9 churches joined together in 1977 to found the Christian Assistance Ministry. Madison Square was one of those founding churches and continues with active support of the organization today. In 1982, the need for a ministry for the homeless of San Antonio was answered by 9 downtown churches, and Madison Square was there to help with the founding of SAM Ministry.
Through the years, Madison Square has supported many mission trips and sponsored refugee families from Cuba, Korea, and Vietnam. We have been active participants in the Martin Luther King March and the Pride Parade.
Another influential preacher in our church's history was Reverend Eileen Dunn, who served the church from 1996 to 2010. During her pastorate, Madison Square took deliberate steps to become a more open and inclusive church.
I joined Madison Square in 1979 because it was the church where my first husband, Chuck Jordan, had grown up. As some of you know, Chuck and I were lovingly divorced in 1985 when he realized he needed to live his life as an openly gay man. We continued to attend Madison Square, sitting together with our daughter, Elizabeth. Chuck, as an elder, shared his story with the session, and he and I participated in several Sunday school classes and forums to discuss the role of LGBTQ individuals in the Presbyterian Church in general and Madison Square in particular.
And to further confuse everyone, I met Margaret here in the sanctuary in 1988 and began to sit in the pew with Chuck and Margaret and Elizabeth on Sunday mornings. Margaret and I were married here in 1990, and our combined and extended family continued to worship together until Chuck's death from AIDS in 1997. His funeral packed the sanctuary, attended by many members of the LGBTQ community, as well as the congregation of Madison Square. After Chuck's funeral, many who attended began to visit and join our church because they felt the welcome of Madison Square.
And on April 14, 2002, the congregation elected the first openly LGBTQ elders to serve on our session, despite the Presbyterian Church's stance against fully including those members in ordained leadership. These elders were ordained on May 5, 2002.
Reverend Dunn was active in the community and beyond in supporting the rights of LGBTQ people. In 2010, Reverend Dunn retired, and in 2013, the church called Reverend Bart Rausch to be our next senior pastor.
Pastor Bart helped us to recover from the tumultuous times that came before his arrival by loving us well and faithfully. He helped lead us to the understanding of our need to know each other more fully through small groups. He preached what we needed to hear on Sunday morning, even when it was difficult to listen to. And I'm sure he is waiting with joyous anticipation, as we all are, to see what our future holds.
In 140 years, Madison Square has been given 2 chances to pull up roots from downtown and move to another place, but we turned down both of them.
Madison Square was planted here and sustained here to do God's work here. In the coming days, we'll explore together where God is leading us next in this wonderful journey. Thank you.
I invite those who are young and young at heart to gather up closer to their screens. There's a special treat for you all today. Let me take this off so you can read my lips better. There are some people in this church who have gathered pictures and stories from Madison Square for as long and far back as we can go. There has always been in this church a love and a passion for children, for educating them, for having them lead in worship, for having them celebrate and learn and grow, to go camp together, to do vacation Bible school together, to lead us in pageants, and to be on these steps at this time. One of the very hardest parts about the pandemic and being a worshiping church during the pandemic is not having these steps full of children. For all of you who are at home, close to your screens, I miss you. I miss your voices, your questions, your answers, your handshakes and high fives, and to hear all the stories about what's going on in your life. And I can't wait to see you all again. But until that time comes, know that we still love and care about you, and that this church has always loved and cared about children. So we wanted today to show you some pictures of the children of Madison Square through the decades, for as far back as we could go. So I want to show you all. This is a group of children at Madison Square from the 1920s, 100 years ago. Can you see them there? There's so many. They're outside. You can see behind them the steps of the front of the church there. They're outside after church one day. There are so many of them. It's so good to see them. The next picture, there's another group of children on the steps there. This is from the 1940s. Imagine what it was like. The first picture was during the decade of the Depression, when everyone was struggling to find money, and this is the decade when the world was at war. A lot of these kids look really grumpy, but I think their life was pretty hard back then. The next picture, there's a choir, so they're all in matching choir robes there. That's the children's choir. And the next picture is Vacation Bible School from the 1940s. Look at that. All those children lined up together, singing songs and learning about the Bible and about God. There's a picture of the church one Sunday after church. You can see there's our sanctuary and there's our building. It's missing the breezeway. We're going to show you that picture. So if it doesn't quite look like our church, it's because there's a piece that we built later on. We'll show you that. But that's after church one day. There's a Christmas pageant. We call it Epiphany pageant because we do ours on Epiphany Sunday now, but that's the front of the church is just full of children celebrating Christmas. There's another Christmas pageant. You see the angels in the back with their big halos, and Mary in the manger up front. This is from the 1970s. You can tell by the clothes, right? This is a picture of the 1970s, some children and their Sunday school teachers. There's another Christmas pageant. Because we didn't have digital cameras, we tended to take just fewer pictures and around big things like pageants and fun parties. So there's the angels there. Oh, this is a picture. The gentleman in this picture, the older man who's leading this, he still goes to our church. His name is Keith White. So thank you, Keith, for being a part of Vacation Bible School back in the, I'm going to say, 80s or 90s. Yeah. There's another Vacation Bible School when we were singing together in one of our Sunday school classrooms. And there's our sanctuary. You can see Eileen Dunn sitting up there and the children talking about what they learned during Vacation Bible School. There's another Christmas pageant with fewer kids, but nice banners, and they were doing a great job telling the story that year too. Here's a group of youth who went to a place that's very special to me called Moe Ranch. They were taking a summer trip up to Moe Ranch for summer camp. That's the Chapel on the Hill. For those of you who haven't been there yet, I'll take you when you're bigger. And there's Miss Linda leading a Sunday school class. And there's Pastor Bart, our last pastor, reading a book on these steps. And some of those children you can remember, and maybe that's even you. That's from 2015. So you see that boy on the left? That's Nick. He turned 11 yesterday. And some of the other children, there's Mackenzie on the right. She's in college now. And there's Mr. Max sitting on the front because he's the biggest kid of all, right? He always comes to the front for children's time. These are just some of the many, many children of Madison Square who have come through these doors and worshiped in this sanctuary. We're grateful for every single one of them. Let's say a prayer together. Dear God, thank you for this church and all the children who have been here. Thank you for grown-ups who bring them and volunteers who teach them. Thank you for reminding us how important children are to church. And bring them back again when it's safe to fill these steps and make all kinds of commotion as we worship you. Amen.